Hello friends, this is the second video of Azure Functions. If you haven't watched part 1, I'll highly recommend to watch that one first before you come to this video. So we recently created one Azure Functions. This is the function that's get created. Now let's talk about what are the features that it has. So I'll go through one by one. But before that, let's try to create a function within the function app. Now there are three ways we can create the function. The first one is with the portal, with the Visual Studio, and also with the CLI. Now we can start with the portal, then I'll show you how we can utilize Visual Studio Code to create a function or deploy a function. So let's start with the portal. So if I click here, so these are the three options that you can see. I choose develop in portal. Now there are different type of trigger as we discussed in our last video. Let's try with the HTTP trigger at this point. And we can put some unique names. Say put tutorial easy learn, and I'll go ahead and create. So that's got created. Now to test that function, we can directly go here. So this is the default that's got created with the index.js because that's the node environment that we chose. Now we can update the code. Say for example, if I try to write this HTTP trigger function, says this is test function with URL, and I can go ahead and save it. Then there is option you can run. So I can go ahead and run this part, and the name is Azure. Let's change it to tutorial so you can see it here. And if I run it, you can see that came out as this is test, and this is the tutorial which is coming from this name I just sent out. If we utilize this function somewhere else, there is an option that you can get the actual URL. Say this is the function, and there are three different keys. So for the time being, we can utilize the default, and you can copy from here, and you can utilize that somewhere else. Now there is another feature that is monitor. You can go ahead and monitor how many calls that you are making. It will take little time to get it there. We can also go to the log. This is kind of the log. You can go ahead and select if there is any queries running, so you can see all this query here as a stream. Let's go back to this function, and we can go each components of this function. So this is kind of an overview that will give you good grasp what are the things are available within that. This is the function URL, and within that, if you go to this function, there will be a little slash, and that is kind of a configurable as well. And any functions that you're making here, which is the HTTP call, so you can get all this URL. This will be the root URL on that. That is customizable as well. Activity log. This is more of a what I'm doing within that function. You can see all of this. This is the IAM of the function, so we can set it up all the role-based access control. This is more of the tag. So say for example, we wanted to group with certain elements or certain names based on the company structure, we can do that. So this is more of the diagnosis of the solved problem. So if there is any issue that we are having related to the availability, SSL, or any kind of we can utilize this tool. So there is one warning. So warning also be showed here for the risk side of it. So we can take a look. This is the global Microsoft Defender, and this section, it's a very similar, but it will be focused on this function only. So you can have the recommendation, alerts, all the details. That all you can see all the recommendations there. This is the event that's still in preview, but that will be there soon, I believe. This is function event, so that you can utilize for any logic app, Azure Function, webhook, and there are multiple ways that we can utilize. Or even you can create a subscription within the event. Let's show you. So here it will create one event subscription within the event grid, and you can configure everything here in this screen. Going back to the functions section, so this is mainly the application keys. Currently I'm using default. We can have master, or we can create more, and we can also rotate these keys as well needed. App files, this is more of the repository in the backend. Say for example, you wanted to see the host.json. So you can see and configure all of this. And you can also see other files if it is available. Proxies, it's disabled for me now. Proxies is more of if there is any proxy network that you are using, you can set it up here. Deployment slots, which is very similar for the app service or web app if you have used it. So we can have production, we can create multiple slots, and we can change the traffic accordingly. And we can also change or promote these slots to the production or non-production. Deployment center is mainly your pipeline, how you are releasing your code. So either you can utilize GitHub, Bitbucket, Azure Repo, or any kind of external, and you can have all the logs here. The configurations is mainly the configuration of the serverless. Say for example, let's go to the general. So here I'm using Node, so I can have all the different versions that is available at this point. So I'm using 18 at this point. There are other features like HTTPS. This is more of the deployment. If you use the HTTPS to upload your file to the Azure Functions, you can do that. The HTTP version 2 is supported now. Even TLS version is 1.2 supported. So if you turn on remote debugging, you can utilize Visual Studio to do any kind of debugging from there as well. Authentication, that is kind of new features that Microsoft came up with. So for the single sign-on, you can utilize these functions. Add identity provider. It can be your own identity provider, or it can be something from the outside of your own Microsoft landscape. So it can be the Apple, Facebook, GitHub, Google, Twitter, and the others. It's also supported through the OpenID. So if I choose Microsoft, so you can see there are different ways. You can directly, if you have admin privilege in Microsoft Active Directory, you can go ahead and create those and it will get created. If somebody else is managing your Active Directory and giving you the permission, then probably somebody has to create the application and you can use the existing one. So if you click here, all the existing app ID will be appearing. And this is the default one, 302, recommended for the website. So once they log in, they will be redirected to your authentication page for the authentication. Let's go back. Application Insight, this is more of collecting the data and showing it to in a graphical manner. You can run queries on top of it, and you can utilize for your debugging purpose as well. This is the identity. So you can have user assigned or system assigned identity, which will connect your Azure function with any other services within the Azure. Custom domain, as I said, the URL can be changed. So this is the current URL, but it can be changed. You can bring your own domain. Certificate is nothing but SSL certificate. You can directly connect with Key Vault to add the certificate, or you can directly upload the VFX file here. So you can manage all the certificate here, but I would recommend to utilize Key Vault. It's very easy to manage and it will be centralized. Networking, if you go with the premium plan, then you will get the private endpoint here. This private endpoint means you can connect your virtual network. It can be local, it can be within the cloud as well. In this version, we can see the access restriction. You can add IP addresses, what you wanted to allow, or any kind of rules that is needed. Scale out is also available until 200. So you can enforce the scale out limit as well, say be 100, and all of this you can do. Service connector is very important here. So the first thing is you need to register the subscription with the service link. So once you're done, so you can create the service connector, which is you don't need to manage any applications password or credential. So it will backend, it will create identities, and through that it will connect maybe the SQL server. You wanted to connect with the Cosmos DB or any other services. It can do its own. It has a good feature, monitor and fix connection. It will monitor every steps of the connectors, and if there is a small changes to the source, it will tell you, and it will also try to fix it. If it cannot, then it will show you the alert there is something wrong, it's not working. If I go to the properties, you can see a different URL like FTP. If you wanted to use this one for the deployment, you can also utilize that. Lock is the resource lock that you can also perform. App service plan, this is the app service plan. You can utilize any other plan that you have that being used for other applications or other functions. You can bring it together and you can utilize that as well. Let's go to the deployment tools. So this is the console. So in this console, you can go ahead and you can see all your files there. So say for example, I have these two files only, so I can see this one and this is the actual function. If you go there, and I can see all the details of files that is inside this folder. SSH, if it is a Linux app, then you can go ahead and do the SSH in the backend side. That is also available. Advanced tools, which is very similar to the console.